How the human brain processes thoughts. Have you ever caught yourself lying awake at night, flooded by a stream of thoughts, some meaningful, others random, some joyful, others filled with worry, and wondered, where do all these come from? Why does my brain never seem to stop thinking? If you've ever had that experience, you're not alone. Every single one of us has a mind that never truly rests. The fascinating truth is that the human brain is constantly processing information, creating thoughts, making connections, filtering memories, and even rehearsing possible futures, all without us even realizing it. Today, let's take a calm, thoughtful journey together into the inner workings of the mind. We'll explore how the brain processes thoughts, what this really means for your daily life, and how understanding this process can actually change the way you see yourself, your relationships, and even the way you handle challenges. Why does this matter? Because the way you think shapes your reality. The stories you tell yourself in your mind influence how you feel, how you behave, and even how your body responds physically. Psychology has shown us again and again that our inner world is deeply tied to the outer world we experience. So by understanding how thoughts are formed and processed, you gain an incredible tool, the ability to work with your brain instead of against it. Let's start with the basics. At its core, a thought is the brain's way of representing information. It could be something you saw, something you heard, a memory resurfacing, or even a completely new idea your brain stitched together from old pieces of information. When you think about it, that's incredible. Your brain is constantly weaving together billions of tiny signals to create a meaningful picture. From a psychological perspective, thoughts emerge through networks of neurons communicating with each other. Every neuron communicates by sending an electrical signal to the next, creating chains and networks of activity. When millions of neurons fire together in specific patterns, you get what we call a thought. That thought might be conscious, you're aware of it, or unconscious, shaping your behavior in ways you don't immediately notice. Now, let's bring this down to everyday life. Imagine you're walking down the street and you suddenly smell fresh bread. In that instant, your sensory system picks up the smell, your brain recalls a memory of eating warm bread as a child, and suddenly, a feeling of comfort washes over you. Notice what happened. A thought wasn't just words in your mind. It was a blend of sensory input, memory, and emotion, all processed in a split second. Psychologists often explain this through the concept of cognitive processing. The brain doesn't just store data like a computer. Instead, it interprets, categorizes, and links that data to your emotions and experiences. That's why two people can go through the same event, but think about it in completely different ways. For one person, a rainy day might trigger frustration. For another, it might spark relaxation. The difference lies in the associations their brain has built over time. Another fascinating part of the story is the role of the prefrontal cortex, often called the brain's executive. This is where higher-level thinking happens. When you plan, analyze, or reflect, that's your prefrontal cortex at work. It helps you regulate emotions, solve problems, and make decisions. Without it, our thoughts would simply run wild without structure. But of course, this doesn't mean our thoughts are always orderly. In fact, most of the time they're not. Psychology tells us that the human brain generates around 60,000 to 70,000 thoughts every single day. That's staggering. But here's the catch. Most of those thoughts are repetitive. They're not fresh, new ideas. They're recycled patterns. That's why, when you find yourself worrying about the same problem over and over, it feels so exhausting. Your brain is looping a thought, replaying it like a song on repeat. Understanding this can help you see that not every thought needs your full attention. Some are simply background noise. Let's pause here and reflect. How often do you treat your thoughts as facts? For many of us, when a thought pops into our mind, I'm not good enough. What if this goes wrong? They must not like me. We take it at face value. But psychology reminds us that a thought is not a fact. A thought is simply an event in the mind, a combination of electrical signals, memory, and emotion. The meaning we attach to it is what gives it power. Take relationships, for example. If your partner doesn't immediately respond to your message, your brain might process that event through a filter of insecurity, generating the thought, they're ignoring me. Someone else might process the same event with calmness. They're probably busy. Same situation, two completely different thought processes, and ultimately two very different emotional outcomes. This is where we see how crucial it is to become aware of our thinking patterns. Cognitive psychology teaches us about cognitive distortions, mental habits that twist our thoughts in unhelpful ways. For instance, black and white thinking makes you see situations as all good or all bad. Catastrophizing makes you assume the worst will happen. Personalization makes you blame yourself for things outside your control. If you've ever noticed these patterns in yourself, don't worry, you're human. But becoming aware of them gives you the power to step back and say, wait, this is just a thought, not reality. Another key point is the role of unconscious processing. The majority of the brain's activity happens outside of conscious awareness. This is why sometimes, when you stop thinking about a problem, the solution suddenly appears while you're in the shower or taking a walk. Your unconscious mind was working in the background, piecing things together. This is called incubation in psychology, and it's a reminder that sometimes giving your mind space to breathe is the best way to solve a problem. Let's also talk about emotion. Thoughts are never neutral. They're deeply tied to how we feel. Neuroscience shows us that the limbic system, the emotional center of the brain, works closely with the prefrontal cortex. This means our thoughts influence our feelings, and our feelings influence our thoughts. That's why when you're anxious, your mind fills with anxious thoughts, and when you're calm, your thoughts are clearer. So what does all this mean for your life right now? It means you can learn to have a healthier relationship with your thoughts. Instead of fighting them, you can observe them. Instead of believing every thought, you can question it. Instead of letting negative loops run endlessly, you can interrupt them with practices like mindfulness, journaling, or simply pausing to ask, is this thought helping me or is it hurting me? Here's a simple reflection you can try. The next time you feel stuck in overthinking, imagine your thoughts as clouds drifting across the sky. Some are dark and heavy, some are light and fluffy, but all of them are temporary. You don't need to chase them or stop them, you can simply watch them pass. That small shift can give you so much freedom. Before we close, let's take a hopeful perspective. The fact that your brain creates so many thoughts means you are endlessly creative. You have the power to imagine, to plan, to dream, and to grow. Yes, sometimes thoughts can be overwhelming, but they can also be inspiring, comforting, and life-changing. By learning how the brain processes them, you can learn to guide your inner world, and in doing so, shape the outer world you live in. So, as we end today's journey, I encourage you to look at your thoughts with a little more curiosity and kindness. Remember, you are not your thoughts, you are the awareness behind them. And that awareness is stronger, steadier, and more resilient than any single thought that passes through your mind. If you found this exploration helpful, please give this video a like. It really supports the channel. Share it with a friend who might need this reminder today. And don't forget to subscribe so we can continue learning and growing together. And here's a thought to carry with you. The next time your mind feels crowded, remember that within all that noise, there is always a calm center you can return to. Keep learning, keep reflecting, and keep giving yourself the grace to grow. I'll see you in the next video.